Yeah.
Happy Monday, Matt. How's it going?
It's going well. How are you doing, Joe?
Doing good. Doing good. It's been a while since we've actually just been the two of us giving a Monday morning data chat. So
yeah, it really has. I mean, how long is the backlog of guests at this point?
I don't know. Hold on, let me mute this real quick so I can. Technical difficulties. Sorry.
Is it out to February or something like that, or March?
March. Yeah, March is when we're booked too. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Anyway, good to see you again. You've been traveling a lot.
Quite a bit, yeah. So I just got back from Seattle. Had a nice family Thanksgiving. I grew up there, but I don't get out there all that often, unfortunately. So yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was great.
Welcome back to Salt Lake. But you're off again.
I'm off again. Yeah. So I'll be back in New York City for a couple of events starting on Saturday. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, if you're in New York, say hi to Matt.
Say hi.
So
yeah.
it's awesome. Oh, cool. Yeah, we got some topics we want to cover. We called it the kind of the grab bag of stuff. So I think some things we wanted to cover is like the kind of the downturn that's happening right now in the data industry. So we talk about that. Maybe talk about some strategies for a recession and so forth.
Both for potentially for employees, or if you're facing layoffs, which unfortunately that's something some of us have to think about right now, or for corporate leaders, and how do you think about data specifically during a recession?
Yeah,
like what strategies should you employ?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And then what else we want to talk about? We want to talk about we get a lot of requests on how to get onto the Monday morning data chats. Probably want to quickly cover that. And then what else here? Yeah, the housekeeping stuff, right? Events and stuff like that. Scott actually asked Matt,
I am
you in New York?
indeed.
Yes, he is on the 7th, so you guys better meet up. So yeah. Awesome. Well, let's kick things off then. And then to the audience, we're actually going to be doing a giveaway of a signed copy of this book here, written by yours truly and Matt Housley over here. So,
it's hard to believe you wrote this. It's kind of crazy, but
it's kind of crazy. Yeah, and the rules are ask a good question. If we like the question we like the most, we'll pick you as the winner. And so the other thing is it has to be within the continental United States. Shipping these things is very expensive, and so we can only ship within the continental United States. That's the only catch there. But we are going to be doing digital giveaways of the book throughout the holiday season. So stay tuned. Anyway, let's kick it off. So the downturn. What's going on?
Yeah, so I think we've been talking about this for a couple of weeks now. The tech industry in particular has been hit really hard. We've seen a lot of companies lay off large numbers of people.
Large numbers, yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And it seems to just be getting started too.
Yeah.
Which is kind of nuts. But yeah, I don't know. What are your thoughts on this? I mean, is this? What do you advise people do? I guess it's it kind of is what it is at this point in terms of the layoffs.
Yeah, we'll look back to maybe data strategy in a downturn in a moment, but it seems like one opportunity here, specifically if you're in data, is to look maybe outside the tech industry. It seems like for the moment, this may not be the case long term, but for the moment, we are seeing this tech industry.
You're talking about people getting laid off?
Yeah, but I think I don't know. What are you seeing in terms of hiring trends? I think there's still maybe a lot of opportunities outside the tech industry. Now it's hard. It's potentially a big transition to go work in a different sector. But on the other hand, you have skills that are very valuable across corporate America or outside the United States as well.
I don't know what I'm seeing in terms of hiring trends just yet. I mean, anecdotally, what I'm seeing is traditional companies are still hiring, but I guess the intent of the Fed raising rates is to kind of kneecap hiring in general. So we'll see how that starts trickling down. But for the time being, I would say if you wanted a job at like maybe a more stable company, then that's probably a route you can go. Getting it. I know people are trying to look for jobs at startups right now, and that's it's going to be pretty hit and miss. And all the big tech companies, they have hiring freezes. So
yeah, exactly. I mean, the layoffs have been. It's just been such a large number of people that's going to have a broader effect. It has to.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah. But I don't know. I mean, it's an interesting one. I would say that the advice I have is sort of the advice I have in the good times too, which is you should be obviously building your network and relying on your network. Your network is going to be key to you getting jobs. Like shotgunning applications out there is probably not the best idea, especially when everyone else is shotgunning applications out there. So
yeah, I completely agree. I mean, anytime we hear about jobs, it's generally not through a posted announcement. It's through someone we know saying, "Hey, do you know anyone who could fill this spot? Because we're having a really hard time filling it." We see that again and again. So,
and Josh has a good comment here. He found his role, new role. Congrats, by the way, on that within a traditional company. It's about getting back to basics. I do agree with that for sure. Use the time to upskill. Andrew says the market will recover. It always does. You want to be in a good position when that happens. Be proactive, not reactive. I love that last bit. Be proactive, not reactive. You always got to be that way.
Yep. Well, my question would be, what if you're looking at upskilling? What should the emphasis be? Should it be in specific technologies? Should it be in domains of expertise, more on the business side? Like, what do you think?
Well, I think it depends on where the jobs are.
That's absolutely true. Yeah.
Fish where the fish are, I suppose. But do things that you like to do too. So yeah. What do you think?
Some of my friends who have come from maybe more of a traditional data warehousing background on-prem, I've advised, you're not going to hurt yourself by going and getting a Snowflake certification just because there's still a lot of jobs in that area. Snowflake for the moment continues to grow pretty rapidly. And so there's just demand in that spot. On the other hand, I think getting tied to one technology, like too invested just in one ecosystem, is probably a mistake. Beyond that, maybe I'll reference your Substack post this week where you talked about things like data value and data trust. And I think growing your skill set in terms of assessing data quality and team processes is going to be really, really valuable too. In fact, it's really like combining the technological and like human management elements of data that makes you extremely valuable to a company.
Yeah, more so now too. I think the glory days of tech only stuff is kind of over. I would say it feels like that. So
well, especially because the jobs that let you really focus on just like one narrow slice of technology tended to be in the tech industry. And so if we're seeing a contraction there, then you probably need a different skill set to be in a company that is not explicitly a tech company.
For sure. John Cook, what's up, John? He says business understanding will make one shine more than the competition. Yeah, absolutely agree. Yeah. Josh says there's still plenty of roles in data engineering and data analytics. Yeah, I think anecdotally it seems to be the case too. I think data science is one where I'm starting to see kind of a downturn in that, but it's just shifting more towards analytics and stuff. But again, it depends on the maturity of a company. Right now, you're going to find out if data science has been proving its value.
Yeah.
Right.
That's just it. And it comes back to your Substack post, right? Like what is the value you're getting from your data? And I think there are data science projects that really contribute a lot to the bottom line. And there are those that are kind of hobbies. And that's been true for a decade or so.
Yeah. Substack post, you keep referencing it, right? So actually I have a Substack, just launched it on Saturday. So if you haven't subscribed, go to joereis.substack.com. But yeah, I posted this article called Groundhog Days. And it talks about the two questions I keep seeing over and over in data. And it's, do I believe data? And if I do I trust it? Right. But it's about value and does data add value? Right. And so that's sort of the crux of it. Value is one of these misnomers I hear, tossed around a ton. And it's like, I don't think a lot of people know what it means, but it's like, oh, we got to add value. And it's like, okay, show me what that means. But yeah, it's kind of cuts to the heart of it too. Like, I think value is going to be under scrutiny a lot. And if you aren't adding value, quote unquote, how I define it is how lean thinking defines it, which value can only be defined by the ultimate customer, basically, right? Customer defines the value, you produce that value. And if you're not doing that, then figure out how you can do that, or maybe find something else to do. So
maybe this is a good time to talk about data strategy during a downturn. I mean, I feel like companies always need to have such situational awareness of what's going on with their business. That's one of the core purposes of data. That's why they employ these large data teams, data warehousing teams, and other types of teams. But especially when the economy is changing very quickly, your customer base can change very quickly, right? And
so how would it differ though from like regular times?
I think it can turn into a wake-up call. So really, companies should always be focusing on data quality and fundamentals and just awareness of what's going on with their business. But I think when times are good, it's easy to settle into complacency, right? And it's easy as a data professional to just kind of get focused on checking off tickets and maybe not actually on how the data is serving the business. And once a contraction hits, people start asking hard questions like, okay, which customers are we losing? Which customers are we gaining?
Yeah.
You know, can we expand our market somewhere else where we're losing market in one segment? I have to imagine, for example, that Amazon is assessing this situation and probably trying to go more down market. I mean, if things really contract, or for example, in an inflationary environment, which we're in right now, people are going to be more price sensitive. And so they have to start asking questions. Even Black Friday, I'm sure there was a big data component to how they assessed building their Black Friday sales.
Yeah, Seb says global inflation is now said to be at its peak. Market news always tends to be not as bad. Tech sector's been white hot. Yeah, I mean, you're basically getting back to hiring levels that you were at before the things took off. So yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting. I mean, to me, it's like you should be doing this stuff all the time.
You should,
but incentives are what they are, and people do what they do. So. Yeah.
Well, I think the biggest point is that we actually don't know if there's going to be a recession right now, right? Like there's just a tremendous amount of uncertainty, and the economy and the world both are changing very rapidly. And so that's where you just need to constantly be assessing what's happening with your business and trying to figure out
always
how to
be
react.
Doing that, though. I think always be paranoid, right? Oh boy, 1 second here. Actually, I gotta get this.
You gotta get a furniture.
Yeah,
delivered.
sorry, my furniture is gonna be delivered here. 1 second, Matt, keep talking. I'll be right back.
Okay.
It's this is a low budget show.
Yeah, that's right. So actually, I'm going to mention this. If you are in New York City, Scott Taylor mentioned that Ethan Aaron will be having a happy hour in Manhattan, and maybe we can post a link to that after the show. I think we'd love to see a lot of people there, just as long as they RSVP, basically. Another thing I want to do here is pull up a comment by Andrew Jones, which is interesting. Let's do this. So data science isn't going anywhere. Some of the slack will get trimmed, which is a good thing. But if you're learning, focus on a small number of portfolio projects which tie to business value, impact, and that focus on understanding customers, end users. This is what companies need right now more than ever. Don't build up a bunch of gimmicky projects that won't get you anywhere. No one needs that. And yeah, I completely agree. It's funny. Often the data science projects I've seen produce the most value use fairly simple algorithms with a really deep understanding of the data. And so specifically that means things like linear regression, right? You look at linear regression and it's so simple that you would think that it's not very interesting, but a lot of interesting data science projects just come out of getting the data into really good shape and then applying linear regression to it. And so, yeah, as a data scientist, or as an aspiring data scientist, focus a lot on fundamentals, focus on those layers of really good analytics and data quality, and then building data science on top of that.
Yeah, how's it going, guys? Okay, yeah, my furniture's showing up in about 20 minutes. So.
Oh, okay.
So maybe a bit of a short show today.
We can make it a short show today. That's
you get what you pay for, though, right?
Yeah.
So.
There's a request for the link for the happy hour. Maybe we can find that and drop it in the.
Yeah, I would say hit up Ethan Aaron.
Yeah.
Right. On
yeah.
LinkedIn.
Follow Ethan Aaron.
Yeah. Yeah, I like what Andrew's saying here. Data science is going anywhere. Yeah, absolutely agree. And in fact, I think it's a time like this where you're going to see a reset in sort of how data science, I think, is used, and I think ultimately it's going to come out better.
Yeah.
So. Well,
it's a shift back to fundamentals, right? I mean, again, data science, when it's done well, just is focused on doing very basic things extremely well.
Yeah.
But it can get carried away to hobby projects where it's just
just gimmicky projects, right? Yeah, absolutely agree on that. Yeah. But that's how it's been for a while. I mean, a lot of data scientists just kind of been in hobby mode, and that's over. So, yeah, that's cool. But yeah, what would you talk about to the audience? And again, apologies. Mostly, the timing of this is absolutely bad. Furniture, getting stuff delivered, I swear, this is the worst episode we've ever done. But getting stuff delivered, man, it's they say, oh, we'll be between 9:30 and 2 or something. And it's great. Thank you. So anyway.
Joe has a bad furniture habit. So.
It is a bad furniture habit. I have a nice furniture habit.
There we go.
Yeah. A bad, nice furniture habit. So yeah. So you're going to be in New York. Tell me about that. What's going on there?
Let's see. So there are a couple of things going on. There's Ethan Aaron's happy hour. I believe there's a Women in AI event that I'll be attending as well.
Yep.
I'll be signing a couple of books there, and I'm just interested to kind of talk specifically about education and data engineering. Obviously, that event is focused more on AI, but data engineering is a major foundation for AI as I see it. And,
somebody at the door already? Okay, 1 second. I gotta sorry, this is the worst episode we've ever done. Here.
Okay. But yeah, I'll be around for the next couple of weeks, basically. And so, if anyone is interested in getting a coffee or anything like that, just hit me up. It's always a great place to meet people and connect. I'm going to pull up another comment here, actually. Yeah, this is so Josh's comment here is pretty interesting. And I think this goes along with a lot of the very ambiguous economic indications we're seeing. Um, that's the biggest theme, I think, in today's economy. I mean, obviously, certain sectors are getting hit really hard, like the tech industry, but there are just a lot of mixed economic signals, like growth and unemployment and other things. You have these very negative economic signals, like inflation, like layoffs. But as Josh is pointing out here, like growing Black Friday spending. And so, again, that's where your data strategy is just key to try to understand. And the reality is that I think some sectors are probably growing while other sectors are contracting. There's the old economic saying, when someone sneezes, everyone gets a cold. And unfortunately, that's probably the truth, right? Like long term, these economic problems are kind of cascade. But for now, we're just in this very uncertain environment. It's a lot of weirdness we're dealing with.
Yeah. Is what it is. So other tips too, I would say, like, save money. It seems obvious. Like I tend to treat like the good times like a recession anyway. Like, I'm pretty cheap, except for furniture. But apart from that, like, I tend to just live really frugally. So, like, I guess the recession, when it hits, you're just kind of like, well, I don't know what the big deal is. It's like, but that's something you got to set up, for years. It's not like you just walk into that situation. But I tend to just kind of live like that always. So
it's like this counterfactual idea in planning. And I feel like one of the things we saw in the post-COVID is that a lot of companies like Netflix adopted very optimistic projections about what would happen when people started going back to work. So there was this huge growth in online activity, in like streaming, in online retail, because everyone was stuck at home. And so I think there's an incentive for companies to like project, okay, this is going to continue and we're going to keep growing. But what's the counterfactual? Like, what are the alternatives and what are you doing to plan for those? And I think the same should probably apply to our lives in employment. In other words, okay, what if something happens? What if I lose my job? Like, what are my fallback plans? And that's where savings and other things come in. Like, think about what you would do in some of these scenarios. And unfortunately, that's a reality that we have to contend with.
I think the estimate is like 6 months of savings or something like that you should have. And I think that's minimum for me. I would say, like, because you never know, things get tough, right?
Yeah,
and so
true.
And mentally it just messes, it's like if you know you're going to be fine, then it's like you're fine. So you can take risks at that point, right?
Well,
so
it buys you time to make good job decisions, basically, right?
It does.
Like, so I think what sometimes happens is people do find another job. They might find another job that they don't particularly like. And so I think if you have some savings, it buys you a bit of flexibility to kind of look around and say, okay, what do I really want to be doing?
Makes you resilient.
It does make you resilient.
Yeah, peace of mind. But again, it's a very privileged thing for us to all say. I mean, you and I just live like college kids, so it's like with as I look at my man cave here. So best books on living frugally, I'd recommend. I used to be a fan of Dave Ramsey, although that guy's like nuts right now. I don't really like him at all, actually, but I think his advice is really good if you're getting started on kind of paying off debt and building up reserves and all that kind of stuff. I think I read a good book recently, The Joy of Compounding, by Gautam Bade. And that was like one of the best books I've ever read in my entire life. But he talks about just simplicity and, approaching life that way. So I'd say, Rich Dad Poor Dad, I would say, is like kind of a good book. I like the thesis of it, but I think it's like Robert Kiyosaki is an absolute nutcase. So
the guy's you're on the record saying he's a nutcase.
He's nuts, dude. Yeah. Yeah, but and Chris Tab, what's up, Chris? He says the British have arrived. Well, Andrew Jones actually beat you there, but they'll be focused on cost reduction. This will create many FinOps and automation initiatives. Working smarter, not harder, refactoring modern day step. So it's a whole grab bag of stuff here. This is like a whole podcast episode that we won't get to do. So
and we probably should just have a FinOps podcast episode sometime. I mean, I think the reality is that the ideas behind FinOps are not entirely new, but we started to see this term bubbling up a lot more.
What is FinOps?
And so there are really two parts to FinOps. So the obvious one is that when you when your IT spend is OpEx, that is, it can change over time.
What's OpEx?
So
Operating expense.
Operating
Yep.
expense. So think about it this way. An operating expense would be something like your electric bill, right? So as a business, that can vary month to month. It's based on my operations. Whereas CapEx is like a fixed expenditure. So typically, if I'm going to buy a brand new office building, which is not something people are doing too much these days, but I would have to like arrange financing and buy the office building or build the office building. That's a big capital expense. And traditionally, a lot of IT has been CapEx, right? Like buying data centers, buying servers, buying huge licenses for databases. And the big shift in the cloud, which is kind of messing with everyone's head, it's like very hard for us to wrap our minds around, especially CFOs, is that now a lot of these traditional CapEx expenses become OpEx. And so FinOps is a strategy for coping with that, saying, okay, if expenditures are OpEx, we need to think about them in an operational way. And so we need to do things like monitoring and optimization, just like we would with network traffic or with performance of the site. And then there's another part of it that often gets overlooked. And that is that instead of just focusing on saving money, you want to think about the IT spend that makes you money. And I think, the tech majors have been doing this forever. I mean, I think from the get-go, Google is thinking about, okay, if we build out this infrastructure, we can serve
your data is a product, right? It makes money. Yeah,
exactly. But I think increasingly it's important for even traditional businesses to think that way too.
It would help.
Exactly. Yeah.
Again, why aren't you doing this the entire time? Is my whole question.
Yeah. Well, it's a hard mental transition, right?
Yeah.
Like fundamentally, it is.
Because IT's always been a cost center. Not
exactly.
Yeah.
And companies like starting in the 90s moved online, but they're still having a hard time with this like idea of making money online, even though they do. Like they still think of IT as a cost center. I think.
You gotta get a website up.
Yeah, exactly. Wasn't that the thing like in the late 90s?
I got to show you something in a second.
Yeah.
Chris Depp types fast. John Cook. That's one I wanted. I think analytics needs to get closer to value use cases, less than intermediate tasks. Absolutely agree, 1000%. Veronica, what's up, Veronica? Now's the best time to prioritize fixing that tech debt. Yep, absolutely agree. Keep talking. I'm gonna bring up a really funny website.
Okay.
So
let's go back to the data science discussion here. Again, data scientists often get carried away with like really sophisticated, what's the latest deep learning, for example. This is almost embarrassing. I guess you're going to show it real quick.
Let me just, sorry, I just got to bring this up for the crowd here. So anyone who's been to BerkshireHathaway.com, go type it in. Berkshire Hathaway's website, I think, is a Word doc. And it's just funny because it's like, if you have any comments about our web page, you can write us below.
Is this like HTML1 or something like that?
I think so. Yeah. It's pretty funny. In order to get your shareholder credentials for the meeting, you have to physically mail in a request. I called their office countless times. Like, can I just do this over the phone? Like, no, you have to mail it. And I'm like, why? You have a form or something we can do? But anyway, low tech, but an example of a company that's, I think Berkshire is probably the best run company in the world, or company of companies, I guess. But yeah, anyway.
But I guess the point would be, though, if you have, so Berkshire Hathaway itself doesn't have an online sales presence, right? A lot of their business portfolio businesses probably do, but they themselves, like this is it. It's just very simple.
No, it's like 30 people in the office.
It's not meant to sell things. There. Yeah. But if I'm an online retailer, there are lots of ways to think about data and analytics as being a way to generate money instead of a cost center. But just simple recommenders on really high quality data, for example, especially again, as the world and the market are changing pretty fast.
Yeah, exactly. John has a good question here, actually. Do you think there will be a retreat from public cloud for traditional OLTP style workloads? What do you think?
I don't actually have a good answer to that. That's a very good question. I could go either way on this.
You have a coin? You want
to flip a coin? Yeah. I could see it going in both directions, as I guess my point. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it depends on the use case, right? So actually, the dark horse here, I think, is WASM.
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing
Postgres and WASM,
yeah,
SQLite I've seen,
yeah,
obviously DuckDB,
yeah,
right. So,
and then the interesting thing about this concept is that it allows you to push some computing to the edge. I think the paradigm is that you still have centralized databases because you have to, right? It's not practical to have everyone maintaining their own copy of data. But if you can push some of that processing to the edge, then you can cut your cloud costs or cut the size of on-prem, setups as well. So.
Yeah, you've seen a lift and shift being more expensive on the. Yeah, I say if you're lifting and shifting, it's like the dumbest thing in the world. Do not lift and shift.
Yeah.
It's a bad idea, right?
What we've seen pre-recession was that companies would be staring down these just huge renewal contracts, like $10 million for a 3-year renewal. It was not uncommon for a big data warehouse system. And instead of lifting and shifting, they'd say, okay, how can we get out? How can we migrate to a new system that's going to be cheaper and more flexible? And I think that trend will continue, but with the caveat that businesses that do this wrong are going to get bit by really big bills on the cloud side, which we've also seen again and again.
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah,
don't leave your servers running 24/7 if you don't have to. Like, have a good reason for that kind of stuff, right? But the thing we see over and over again, it is cheaper to run things on-prem if the workload is stable and predictable. Cloud's really good but if workloads are unpredictable and it might spike and you need more capacity.
I would say cloud is very economical if you have a FinOps paradigm. In other words, if you're really good at optimizing to get your workloads small, and if you have use cases for large workloads that generate value, where you're like, all right, I want to spend $100,000 on this data job because it's actually going to help build a better model of customers.
Yeah. So SAP comes to mind here. I guess it's SAP over in Europe. We say SAP here.
Yeah.
I was an SAP customer, but SAP, I guess, whatever. But yeah, I think that's a good one, right? Where see a lot of cloud vendors trying to get into the the SAP workloads, whatnot. But I could see it being more expensive, depending how you do things. Obviously, right? I would say you need to understand how the cloud works. The things that irritate me to no end is like people say, "Oh, the cloud's so expensive," but they don't know they haven't bothered to look how to use the cloud properly and do things cloud, natively.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Because if you just take an instance that you have on-prem and you migrate that to an AWS EC2 instance that's basically identical in terms of performance, and you run it 24 hours a day for 3 years like you would a regular server, you're going to spend a lot more money. You might spend 2 to 3 times.
But then it's expensive.
It's expensive, right?
Yeah.
But if you can turn that off like 2/3 of the day or something, or if you can scale your workloads up and down, or here's a really good example in online retail. If you can use a much smaller server pool most of the time and then just scale up on Black Friday, that could be a much better value, right? Because your traffic might go up 5 to 10 times on Black Friday.
Yep.
And on-prem, you'd be paying for that all year long.
Yeah,
which
exactly.
Doesn't seem like a great value.
Veronica has a very good point here too. Don't forget the people that need to be there to support a data center. Yeah, absolutely. We've seen this a lot.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And that's the thing. Like I see a lot of very naive analyses of these costs where they just look at the server cost and they ignore a lot of other costs.
Yeah, but who's typically doing these analyses, right? It's like,
and it's not to say, I think there really are good use cases for on-prem. There absolutely are.
Absolutely.
But you really want to understand the issue and get someone who's good at managing cloud workloads, and do not lift and shift. Like that's a bad idea. At least long term it is.
Yeah, I'd say just know your architecture. That really fundamentally comes down to it. Know your architecture and then understand the cost profile of it. But also know your opportunity cost too. Don't get hammed into to something where you can't get out. Like we always talk about one-way, two-way doors in this context, right?
And that is a huge advantage of the cloud, right? It is a two-way door where, in other words, any workload I spin up, I can spin down. Whereas with a CapEx expense, if I buy a big data center, I'm stuck with it. I'm going to be paying that bill for years. If I buy a fleet of 1,000 servers, I'm stuck with those for a long time.
Andrew has a good question here. Actually, what's up, Andrew? He's a cool dude. In what scenario would you consider the smaller players like DigitalOcean or Linode as cloud provider? Actually, I've worked with DigitalOcean a fair bit. I love DigitalOcean for like small servers. Awesome, cheaper than EC2, reliable. I would say they're definitely keep that in mind for sure. So
yeah, it kind of depends what services you need versus what servers, right? Because AWS, and we'll probably talk about this next week with regard to reInvent, what they offer are services. In other words, I can go get Redshift and it's fully managed database, basically. I can go buy Kinesis. DigitalOcean is not going to give me that level of service, but it gives me really cheap servers and memory and basic resources, so infrastructure.
Yeah. Val has a good question here. What about flexible computes? What's up, Val? Dynamically move computes from cloud to on-prem or cloud as needed. Yeah, it's
an interesting model.
Yeah.
It can be complicated, and so you just kind of have to be aware of the complexity and make sure that your use case justifies that.
Yep.
And I think if it does, and if you have the right talent to run that for you, then it can be a pretty interesting option.
Yeah, I would say just know what you're doing. Right?
Yeah, that's
just understand the paradigms. Don't get locked into one thing or another.
Well, and just watch out for the big. So, what are the big traps with cloud? Well, it always comes down to egress costs, right? That's where people really get burned, and that's where hybrid can get really bad. You have to understand that when data gets pushed up to the cloud, pushing it back gets very expensive. And so as long as you can do stuff that flows in one direction, it can make a lot of sense.
Or so like a private link or some interconnect like that.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And you just have to take that into account in your cost profiles and such. Yeah.
My furniture is gonna be showing up any minute now. So
okay.
Yeah.
Any last stuff we want to talk about here?
I think that's about it, really. I mean, yeah, sorry. Again, this is like probably the worst episode we've ever done, but it is what it is. It's fun. Got a lot of good comments here. Let me go through the notes here. We talked about how to get on Monday morning data chat. Let's talk about that real quick. So I had a post recently where I talked about how to get on. We are pretty strict. It's invite only. We don't take money because we just don't. It'll ruin the conversation, I think. So no sponsorships, nothing like that. So I'd say, send us a message. I like to meet the people. I think Matt does too before we, get you on the show. We have to like you. That's what it comes down
the
to.
whole point here is to have good conversations.
Yeah. Except for today.
Well, exactly. hopefully it was still a good conversation. But yeah, we just want to hear interesting insights and good conversations. The whole point is to hear from other people mostly and not from us. And so, yeah, we'd love to meet people and just kind of connect and see if you have interesting things to say. Just bring you on that way.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, if you like it, then we're already booked out to like end of March. So and in that case, it's like just be patient too. So Josh actually likes the content of this. Cool. A Q&A format. Maybe we should set aside another day where we just do this. Like maybe a short half hour Q&A.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we have to look at the upcoming schedule, but we should find a slot for that.
Yeah. Buy Matt a drink in NYC. Yeah, please do. If you're in Vegas tomorrow, buy me a drink. I don't know if I'm gonna be drinking in Vegas.
That might be a bad idea.
Yeah, I'll be at reInvent for a bit. Actually get it. I won't be at reInvent in particular. I don't ever buy passes to it. I will be in Vegas though tomorrow night, and it'll be Wednesday morning. So if you're around, hit me up. And yeah, I think this time we're gonna give a book to. Actually, I'm feeling generous. Let's give books to two people. Josh Gallant gets a book and Andrew Padilla gets a book. So if you guys are listening, hit me up in the message on LinkedIn, and I'll get you squared away, signed copies of a book. So yeah, Josh wants us to do the Q&A stuff regularly. I guess we could, let's talk about it.
Yeah, this could be a lot of fun.
So yeah, if everyone's interested in like maybe a 20-30 minute Q&A, kind of Wayne's World style, sure, we can do that.
We could even potentially mix it and have just two different portions to the episode or something. That might be fun.
That'd be fun. Yeah, because it's weird. Like it's weird talking because we used to do this all the time. Like, and the reason we started the Monday morning data chat is because we just recorded our conversations. Like Matt and I just talk about this stuff all the time anyway, because we're just really just fascinating individuals, I suppose.
Well, they weren't streaming originally, right? They were just pre-recorded.
Yeah,
going to YouTube. It's hazy now. It was a long time ago.
Yeah, it's hazy, but yeah, everything is. So yeah. Anyway, yeah, look forward to that. That might be kind of fun, actually. Yeah, final AMA December. Yeah, I think you can count on us on that one.
Yeah.
So awesome. Cool. We got a new show now. It's the Joe and Matt show, not the Monday morning data chat. So anyway, yeah. So look forward to that. That'll be a lot of fun. Cool. Well, anyway, sorry I have to cut it short. Again, I'm getting furniture delivered here, and it's kind of at the operating on their clock at this point. Yeah, man, they just come in too. Like we had a fridge delivered once. It was insane. These guys show up and they're like arguing the entire time. They're fighting, and one of them drops the fridge on himself.
I hope they have liability insurance.
Well, yeah, it was like laying there like a fridge on top. I was like, what the fuck? So it's like, I need to help you up, but yeah, I mean, so I hope it's not quite like that, but it was, you never know what you're getting with these guys. And then one time, they sent me a table and it's like got shoe prints all over it. This is not a cheap table, by the way. It's like it costs as much as a small car. And this thing was like, yeah, it's like you're taking it back right now. So yeah, anyway, looking forward to today. It's gonna be great. Yeah, I'm glad good reception. Yeah, everyone seems to like this. Yes. Yeah, cool. All right, well, we got a new show. So anyway, thanks to the audience for bearing with us. Like I said, I'm always critical. I think we're doing a crap job, but fun times. So
yeah, well, yeah, hopefully there will be no furniture delivery next week. So
yeah, try not to do that. Okay. All right. Well, thanks everybody. Next week, actually, we have and I'm actually gonna mess up his name. Ole Olesen Bagno. How do you say that?
I think it's
Bagno?
Something like that.
Okay, you speak French. Yeah, I don't. I took like 4 years of French in high school, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely terrible. So
I
yeah,
did not know that. Okay.
yeah, I took that in 4 years of German actually too.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I also took German, and I also don't speak that.
Exactly. Yeah, it was worth a lot. Languages like Spanish, which you could probably use every day, didn't even bother doing that. Like, the practical ones. Good, the ones like,
That are obscure European languages.
especially German. Like, outside of Germany, where do they speak German?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, Switzerland speaks German.
Switzerland,
yeah.
Okay, cool. Anyway, so anyway, we'll have Ole on there on the show. Then, I got a lot of good guests coming up, so stay tuned on that. And like I said, subscribe to my Substack, Joe Reis at Substack.com. We're going to be giving digital copies of this book. Again, congrats to Josh and Andrew for winning a signed copy of this, and see you next week. Bye-bye.